Hey, welcome back to the 5-Minute Strategist. I know that it can be hard to move yourself as a leader from, why can't they just do that thing, to what do they need to get this thing right the next time? In the heat of that moment, you have a lot on your plate, a lot of moving pieces, and something that you've delegated coming back to you and needing more attention can be really frustrating. But you need to understand if you have an attitude problem or a skills gap. This is how we make sure that we keep the right team around you and we let those people who are not a great fit go. Both things can cause the same problem, but one is fixable and the other one is probably fireable. So how do you pinpoint if you have a gap or not? One of the most important things that you can watch in this space is your team's performance over time. Anybody could have a bad day and drop the ball. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have a deeper problem. Once you start to see recurring issues, recurring dropped balls, missed opportunities, that's when they become red flags. So deadlines being missed, the quality of something not being up to standard, getting complaints from clients. If you start to see these issues coming up on a regular basis, you can use either your performance reviews or your one-to-one meetings to dig a little bit deeper. And what you want to be doing is open-ended questions. You want them to talk about what's happening at work. Ask them what they feel they do really well. Ask them where they see room for improvement. Ask them where they feel that they have a challenge. This is going to allow them to talk through how they see their performance at work. And that's going to give you an indicator. If somebody is genuinely struggling, they will be very aware of those missed deadlines and they will be very concerned about missing them. If somebody's missing those because they've got an attitude and they don't care, that's going to show in how they talk when you ask these open-ended questions. Let's assume that where you feel you've got an attitude issue, you're dealing with that in a different way. Where you've got a performance issue, that's a skills gap, you want to really understand those underlying issues. And that means talking with the person, understanding what the challenge was, understanding where they might feel they have a gap, what skills they want to develop, right? The more they're bought into this process, the easier it's going to be for you to help them get results. When we're thinking about this feedback, most small businesses don't have an HR function. So one of the things I want you to be aware of is peer feedback in small teams. I have done 360 feedback for years in banking. And in my opinion, it's really effective. Either people don't give frank feedback because they're terrified they're going to get found out and then be disliked by someone in their team, or they use it as a chance to air a petty grievance or blame someone for something that happened in their space, which is really not constructive, or they just don't understand the impact of the process. They don't understand that somebody else's livelihood depends on what they say. And so often you don't get the level of attention you need for the feedback to actually be constructive. So rather than formalizing it, I would suggest that you pay attention to what's getting brought up to you in passing. So the same way that you notice, they're missing deadlines, they're dropping balls, you start to notice in those one-to-one calls, all the team keeps saying this person doesn't do this thing. And then again, you can apply that. Is it an attitude? Is it a skills gap? Also, if you have a management level, you are literally paying them to pay attention to the team. So I would definitely seek their counsel on what issues there are, whether they're a skills gap, whether they're an attitude problem. Once you've identified the skills gap, you need to think about how do we address those. Everybody can usually benefit from the soft skills training. If you're thinking more technical skills, then it's usually individual to the person. And there are lots of options to fill these gaps. What I suggest you do is agree with your team member, this is the skill that we need to develop. So you need to develop your Facebook ads skills. And then let the team member go and investigate and research and find an option to teach them Facebook ads that they are excited about. And have them pitch it to you. That starts to give them ownership of the decision and of the results. And then around that, you also want to think about how are you showing your team that development is important to you? How does it show up when you interact as a team? Are you doing education parts to a monthly team meeting or a quarterly team meeting? Do you do lunch and learns? Do you share industry trends in a Slack channel? How are you showing your team that you expect them to be learning and developing? Because as your business grows, new gaps are going to show up. And you want them to be aware that they can ask for help so that they can fill that gap quickly so that your business can keep on rolling at that level. That's how we keep our business agile and resilient as we're trying to grow. So what is your strategy to identify and assess any skills gaps within your team?